ask everybody to please silence their cell phones. Take a moment to silence the cell phones, please. And make sure that you review the rules of decorum for the school board meetings that are attached to the back of your agenda. If I've had someone reach out to me and they were a little concerned about some whispering at the last meeting. So if we could all refrain from whispering if possible, that might be beneficial for some of our audience members. So with that, I'd ask that you please stand and we'll say the Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The vision of the Cameron R1 School District is to offer an exceptional educational experience, and the mission of the district is to educate and empower our students to reach their full potential. With that, we have two people we'd like to recognize this evening. Dr. Laura Janovic, if I'm correct on that. This certificate is presented to Dr. Laura Janovic for contributing to a vision of excellence in the Cameron R1 School District by obtaining your doctoral degree in educational leadership, curriculum, and instruction from William Woods University.
Well done. Well done.
And then next is Miss Kayla Riley. This certificate is presented to Kayla Riley for contributing to a vision of excellence in the Cameron R1 School District by being awarded the Northwest Region Assistant Principal of the Year 2025.
Thank you. Well done.
Board, before you, you've been presented with the proposed agenda. Do I have a motion to accept the agenda as presented? So moved. Moved by Ms. Lockridge. Second by Ms. Goodman-Clark. Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed, same sign. Seeing none, motion passes unanimously. Next, we move on to the consent agenda. You've been presented with the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Vernier. Second by Ms. Early. Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed, same sign. Seeing none, motion passes unanimously. And moving on to non-meeting reports, Dr. Robinson.
Yeah, the first one, like I said, on the legislative update I wanted to talk about was House Bill 711. That is the open enrollment. That did pass the House last week. That has been sent over to the Senate. There's some different pieces in there. Effectively, that caps open enrollment at 3%. It also caps whether the school district wants to participate or not participate in it. You have the choice. And then it caps how many kids can actually leave your district or come to your district at 3%. Like I said, that did pass the House. That'll go to the Senate. We've actually been in this exact same position a couple of years in a row. And it seems like the Senate's version is quite a bit more restrictive and quite a bit more, I should say more restrictive. It actually has a little bit more, a lot of other stuff in it. So I shouldn't say restrictive. It's a little bit more open on that. And so I think everybody's kind of holding their breath right now. The legislators are in, I guess, recess. They're kind of waiting. They're kind of their legislative break for a week. But anyways, I think people are anxious to see because there's a Senate version right now that's not good at all. I'm not even sure most of the senators would agree to it. And so they're not sure if they'll just go ahead and take up the House bill or if they will, they'll take up the House bill or if they will try to work with their Senate bill or whatever they may do. So anyways, but that's Senate bill, or yes, House Bill 711. And like I said, there could be some ramifications in there that we still don't know. There's still some wrangling over transportation and how those cost and will be done. One of the other ones that obviously pertains to us is the work after retirement for retired teachers. That's House Bill 607, and that effectively sunsets into this year. And that allows those people who are getting retirement to continue to come back to school with critical shortage. And I think would go for another 5 years right now. Like I said, that sunsets at the end of the year. Quite honestly, I'm not sure how we would make it without that. We've had to use critical shortage teachers almost every year to get by. And you're also, your teachers are retiring at 29, 30 years old. It's not, I should say 29, 30 years experience. Those teachers still have a lot to offer back to kids and give still some of your best teachers, but they decided to take their retirement and get a little bit more. So we're actually, I would be definitely in favor of House Bill 607, because like I said, of what we need to do with that. The supplemental budget, which is House Bill 14, is actually moving around pretty quickly, a lot quicker than it should. That's a good thing. And that just picks up a lot of stuff on the foundation formula, some pieces that they weren't for sure how much money they may need. So it was like $49 million that goes back to the foundation formula, which is, that's just either from enrollment, from miscalculations, maybe we had a higher sped population or whatever it may be. So in some of those different, in the formula, so that would allow us to get some of that money back. Obviously $49 million doesn't sound like much when it's spread out among 500 districts in Missouri, but it could be something. And because right now lottery proceeds are down about 80 million, and so what really has saved the lottery the last couple of years is we've had a couple jackpots that almost got to $1 billion, and even the people that don't play decided to throw $1 or $2 in the hat for $1 billion. But and that's why they're having to do the supplemental, is because some of the things that they were counting on aren't working, and they're $80 million below, and some of the gambling and things that we voted on in November probably still will not be set up for this even this summer. So I think there's already some promised money that school districts are thinking we're probably not going to get from that gambling money that was passed last November. So.
Under House Bill 607, that extends the work after retirement?
It does.
Right?
Yep, that extends the work after requirement. That also, it's a 5-year extension.
Okay.
And then it also allows for some missed days due to inclement weather to be counted towards the additional 1% and 2%. We've decided to do a 169-day calendar to give us that 1% so we can give back to our staff. I mean, if the state's going to give you money, I don't think you should pass it up. And after 1 year, that actually goes to 2%. Once you've earned the 1%, you can earn the 2%. Now, while the 1% doesn't sound like much, that's $70,000 that I can put back towards staff salaries. So, that can give us steps or whatever. So, and what this will allow us to do is, the other part of that was that we've had a lot of inclement weather this year, a lot more than I can remember in years past. And so, that would take some of those days away, so maybe we didn't have to go quite 169, but because you went 169 with AMI and all the other stuff, you may still get the provision. So I'm not sure how much of that will all come through or not. So then there's a bill right now, which is Senate Bill 87, and that pretty much puts a 5% cap on assessed value for growth. We're already going to see some effects of assessed value, because right now I think it was I want to say it was Senate Bill 90. I apologize on that. It happened a couple years ago, but if you're at a certain age, you can cap your assessed value at that limit at 62 years old. So while the school isn't losing any tax money, we also don't gain any, because that would effectively never be reassessed once you get to a certain age. And then if you start capping 5% and those different things, which I've heard there's some counties as far as back as 15% is what they should have been gradually adding over, and they're 15% behind on where some of those values should be. So that's just a couple things to kind of watch. You're really going to see the bills that are probably going to have a chance to make it to the finish line once this legislative session ends, or this legislative break ends after this week. because pretty much anything new is, there's nothing new. Anything that's just been reintroduced, probably early March, late February, is not gonna have the wheels or the legs to be able to make it to the finish line. So you're gonna see those bills that started with, 3,000 bills, whatever, you're gonna get down to a couple hundred that only may have legs to make it to May. Because this is what I would consider the halfway point till the May 16th final gavel. So some of that stuff you won't even see anymore, because at this point in time, it's not even made a committee hearing. It's not making the floor. It's not making anything. So.
I just gonna throw this in here. I had a president's Zoom call the other week. Beginning of the session, the House filed I wrote down 16,000. I don't even know if that's possible, but maybe it was 1,600 bills.
16
Yeah.
probably.
And Senate 700. And so by the time they go through the whole project, yeah, it is shrinking now. So, any questions for Dr. Robinson on any of that? Any thoughts on the federal level, Dr. Robinson, or anything you want to share with the board?
I know there's going to be. I know right now they've cut about half the staff out of the U.S. Department of Ed. Two of those things that are under the U.S. Department of Ed, which is title, which is effectively giving money for poverty and schools to be able to do something about it, specifically when it comes to instruction. That's federal law, so that is not going to be something that, while it may not come from the U.S. Department of Ed, it would be under social services or something like that. That's something that would take a whole act of Congress to be able to do. And I don't know that anybody's going to have the appetite to do that part of it. The other one is IDEA, same thing. In fact, both of those were legislated before the U.S. Department of Ed was even in existence. The U.S. Department of Ed didn't come in existence until the late 70s. Both those were early 70s legislation. IDEA is effectively special ed. And maybe the money doesn't come from the U.S. Department of Ed. It may come from somewhere else, but I don't see any loss of funding when it comes to that. Even as our budgets go, our biggest portion of that is when we get federal funds, it's going to be special ed, it's going to be title, and it's going to be free and reduced lunches. Free and reduced lunches doesn't fall under U.S. Department of Ed, that falls under U.S. Department of Agriculture. So there's no chance that at this point in time, unless they would do something else, that we see that. Now we've seen some cuts come that we already know of next year with some like block grants. They haven't cut like National School Lunch Program or anything like that, but there have been some cuts. And I know like we had about $80,000 worth of commodities this year, which is pretty much, we get commodities and some things we pay for, some things we get free, or maybe we may have to pay for 2 and get 8 free type situation. But we only have a commodity limit of free up to about $80,000 is what our school district is allotted. And so right now we've been told that it'll kind of go out back to about $45,000 or $50,000 next year. It's all about the money that we'll have to be able to buy whatever, government cheese or government peanut butter or whatever it may be. But so we are seeing some effects in that sense, but nothing what I would consider drastic. So much of the U.S. Department of Ed is school loans, student loans. I want to say that's in the trillions as far as what they probably have outstanding with the U.S. Department of Ed is the school loans. Their budget's not much, but you've got, year after year after year after year, you're giving student loans. That adds up, and like I said, I think that's 1.7 trillion or 2.7 trillion is the majority of what U.S. Department is dealing with right now is student loans. I don't foresee it being a major issue.
It's mostly higher ed.
It's mainly higher ed in U.S. Department of Ed and loans and stuff like that. Like I said, those other things are protected by law. While you can kind of get the U.S. Department of Ed, you can't actually still get 100% get away from it until the Senate can get over 60 votes. And that's probably not going to happen for another 2 years. So.
Any other questions or any other comments about legislation? Just a quick bond update, where we are with the bond, and just kind of inform the public
Yeah,
what we're doing.
Well, just Yeah, just to go over real quick what the bond's going over. We decided in January to do a bond issue. That bond issue was for $8 million. A little over $6 million of that would go to renovating the high school first, and then demolishing the old part of the high school. And so, in fact, I think we have a board outside in the hallway that kind of shows what we're looking at. But that would be where a little over $6 million of that would go to. $800,000. And again, these are estimates. We don't. I mean, I'd love to tell you these are hard, fast numbers, but we haven't had the architects draw up every plan, and we don't know what the economy will look like in the fall. And so we don't know, but we think these are a pretty good estimate. We've used these architects for quite a few years, and we've had pretty good numbers. The second part of that, and I don't want to put one over the other, but as far as value, is $800,000 towards the Parkview roof. That allows us to do the entire roof of Parkview and take care of that in one fell swoop, and and get that 20 years down the road, so we don't have to worry about it. Even with the high school, we're pretty much at the point of the high school as well. The high school roof is probably in a worse condition than the Parkview roof, but we wanted some projects that we could catch up on that we weren't having to take from our general funds to pay for, and so that's why we combined those two.
Excuse me, Dr. Robinson, when you say high school, you mean the old part of the high school?
The old part of the high school that we're looking at once we get, once the other part's built, that we would tear down. That area right now, we kept our HVAC parts on our north part of our building so that we could service our units on the south end of the building, because we can't find the parts. And so those are actually still set in storage, and we've used them a couple times already. But by the time we put a new roof on it, by the time you do all brand new wall panels on the old part of the building, and then you do new HVAC, which would definitely be needed, you're going to spend in the millions, and you still have classrooms that are probably, I wouldn't say half, but pretty close to half the size of what we're needing. I mean, those classrooms were built for kids in 1964. They don't look like kids in 2025. Kids are bigger, they just are. And so those classrooms are crowded right now. But that's the two main pieces. If we have money, those are the two projects we want to do. If we have money, we'd like to do something with the maintenance shed. When we bought that building 14, 15 years ago, that Vision Audio building was in not great shape, and so and we haven't done any improvements to it other than put some paint on it. So we would need to do something with those buildings just to give us something. We store all of our paper products, all those different pieces in there, and so that's what the project is. I mean, that's kind of the nuts and bolts. We've got a committee of people all throughout the community that have been working on this. They've been going out, talking to different groups, organizations, doing those things. I mean, so I think that's pretty much the nuts and bolts of the project, and we still have some time that I know the groups and organizations have asked us to give presentations, and so we've been sending people out to do those. And so,
Dr. Robinson, just to be clear, school buildings are built in one of two ways, is that correct? Through either a bond issue or a tax increase, is that fair? I mean,
yeah.
Schools don't save up money to say, oh, we've got this $8 million laying around.
There's not a lot of mechanisms for schools, at least in Missouri, to improve. You're right, if you don't have a debt service, you have to tax your people to start a debt service. So if you have no debt service and you have to go ask people for $1 to get however much money that generates, that's different for every school, then you're raising taxes. We are fortunate that our 99 cents we do in debt service, that number will not change. This is pushing our debt service down the road, it is, but at the same time, it doesn't lower our debt service if it doesn't pass. We just pay off our debt quicker. But And unfortunately, schools all over the country, the average age is 49 years old. So you're starting to see, a recycling of schools all over the country, all over Missouri, because you're starting to see schools that are maxing out, their age. So,
Yeah. That high school is, what, 60 years old?
yes,
The old part of the high school?
yes, 64.
Any other questions? Thanks for the update.
Yeah.
I'd like to just remind the community about what that is so that they can be informed. So thank you for that. Appreciate that. Anything else on the bond issue? Okay, moving on to administrative reports.
A few fun things to share. We had our Teacher of the Year awards for each building, and we had 2 teachers. Sheila Switlick was Teacher of the Year at CIS, and Andy Brown was CVMS Teacher of the Year, and then she was our overall district winner. So very proud of 2 of our special education teachers. We also had Rachel Garlick and Megan Hale, who were above and beyond the Call of Duty winners for their building. So proud of those special education staff members. It's nice that their coworkers see what they do in the buildings as well. I included in here Autism Awareness Night. I have a little flyer. You see it? The people on the live feed. We're having an Autism Awareness Night at our baseball game on April 14th. This will be our second event that we would put on. Last year was our first one, and we will have students that will come out for the first pitch. Baseball team will be helping. That morning we will do a Special Olympics event with other schools. We currently have 145 students attending our wiffle ball tournament, which is a lot more than we had last year, so we're going to cap that right now. So we're excited about that. A lot of people want to come, so that's great. But so that morning we'll do wiffle ball, that afternoon, that evening at the baseball game we'll do an Autism Awareness Night and bring some awareness to our kiddos with some special needs. So we're very, very excited about that. Thank you guys for letting us do that. All of our events that we do with our kiddos, the families really love, the kiddos love, they look forward to it. Kiddos are already practicing. If you walk into the gym first thing in the morning at CVMS, they are practicing. They specifically stopped me and asked me for the softball, baseball gloves the other day because they didn't want to just use their hands as practice. So they are ready to win, which is good. I'll take it. And I think that is it for celebrations that I have. Any questions for me?
Just a comment, congratulations to the students that did so well in the Job Olympics.
Oh yes, I probably should highlight that. We had Job Olympics at East Buchanan High School, and we brought home 11 medals. Our students did a great job. They go in and they try different jobs, practice different jobs, and we practice those at school. So we had 11 medals that came home. A couple kiddos placed in 2 different events, but they do mail sorting, counting change, filing, sorting laundry, stuffing bags like you would at a grocery store, being a host or hostess, sandwich making, money recognition, and car detailing. So the car detailing, they gave us lots of praise on that one. So our little guy that won that one, I was like, hey, you want to clean out my car for practice too? Because I have 2 boys. But no, they did a great job. There's a car dealership in St. Joe that helps do that, and he was like, that's the best I've ever seen because they do this at a couple of schools. So I'm very proud of our kiddos. They did a great job. They all dressed professional, and so they came in all sharp with their ties or dresses on. It was a great event. The teachers and pairs did a great job of prepping them as well. They would come in and shake hands and introduce themselves. They did a great job. Highly impressed. So yeah. Thank you for reminding me. Thank you. I'm gonna go celebrate with my kiddos now. Go get some ice cream. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Ormsby.
How are you guys?
Great.
Good. I also want to congratulate our Teacher of the Year and ABC winners at Parkview. Addie Floyd, first grade teacher, was voted by her peers as the Teacher of the Year, and Megan Hale was voted as our Above and Beyond the Call of Duty award winner. So Megan is a personal nurse and a teacher assistant, so she does a great job too. Proud of both of them. Mrs. Rucker and I had a title meeting that she's going to elaborate on last week, Tuesday night, I believe it was, wasn't it? Time flies when you're having fun. She's going to elaborate about the meeting itself, but as far as her program, but we did have a parent meeting afterward. We had one parent in attendance. Just want to encourage families when we push all that information out. It's really a great opportunity for you to learn about our schools, to learn about all the programs that we offer, all the ways that we're working to meet student needs. And we're just really trying to get more people involved, try as we might through advertising, email, Facebook, text reminders. We just aren't getting those people to come in and take part in that. So we'll encourage continually and see if we can't get those numbers up. We also had a readathon at Parkview this past couple of weeks. Unbelievably, we beat our goal from last year, and we've topped over $10,000 with money still trickling in. Readathon's great. You don't have to do the door-to-door sales. You don't have to put kids into, positions like that or have parents running around delivering stuff. So it's wonderful. The kids go out, they get pledges or donations, and most importantly, they read. So we're excited to have that fundraiser every year, and all the proceeds go back into our end-of-year school carnival. So they get really wound up about supporting it because they know they're going to have a good time here in a month or so. Another thing that I wanted to address is just attendance. Been reflecting on the school year, looking at things that we could and should do differently. Our attendance rates right now in preschool are ranging in the 70% range, and K2 in the 80% range. That has a very strong negative effect on our ability to educate kids. And I don't think Mrs. Riley could keep up with any more incentives than we're currently offering. Prior to COVID, I rarely had a class average below 90% attendance. And that was with some significant incentives for the kids, all very positive, no punitive incentives, just encouragement. And then after COVID, we have really struggled to get those numbers back up there. I met with the staff this last week and just did some brainstorming on, what it is that we could do differently, what are we doing currently that we feel like is working. And I think just maybe educating the parents more, word of mouth, maybe encouragement from grandparents, aunts and uncles, anybody that, has that positive influence over families, then can impress upon them how important it is to have these kids at school. For instance, I covered the office a couple of days last week, and on the day after daylight savings time, I had 26 families that were tardy on Monday. 26 kids missed reading instruction. If you have reading in the morning, which we all do at Parkview, and you have 60-70% attendance, you are missing the most critical instruction, multiple days a week or, several days a month. And it does make a huge difference. So those are things that we're continuing to work on. It's hard. You don't want to punish kids for not coming to school. It's not their fault. They can't drive. They can't walk there safely. They're 3 to 8 years old.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Would that be an opportunity maybe to switch the order of classes, or does that not?
No, because, it happened the core in the afternoon, they're exhausted. They're 3 to 8.
Yeah.
They're tired. They just don't have the stamina for that. So we do our specials.
Tardy, how late?
It ranges. It could be anywhere from 5 minutes to an hour and a half. Just depends on what time people decide to get up and roll. So.
This is an issue nationwide, right?
Yes.
That's what I'm seeing and reading. This
It's
isn't.
not a Cameron issue in isolation. It's an issue in all of our buildings,
Right.
but it's an issue nationwide post-COVID. And I think it's, families got a taste of what that was like, having kids at home, being able to sleep in, for whatever reason, it's just habits sometimes are hard to break, but it's hurting kids, and we've got to change. We've got to do something. We've got to roll out. We want our kids to be top notch. We want our kids to reach their potential. They have to be at school. So, on a positive note, we have a lot of I do anticipate a lot of growth. We're getting ready to do our end-of-year assessments here shortly. Be looking for those kiddos to be proficient on their phonemic awareness, their phonics, and their overall reading scores using our STAR reading assessments. And we're excitedly planning our end-of-year activities. We have our carnival that I spoke of, the art show, Arbor Day, and track and field, and all that information is available to parents on our calendar of events. Do you have any questions for me?
Thank you for doing Title I nights and things like
Yeah.
that. I know it's sad when people don't come, but thank you for putting the effort.
The event is wonderful.
Into it,
Mrs.
yeah.
Rucker will share all of her hard work, and it was very well attended. It's we gotta get parents more involved, so anything you
Thank
all
you
can
for-
think of, let us know and we'll try it.
Thank you for inviting us to read last week.
Oh, yes, yes, that
I'd
was
forgotten
great.
how to read upside down.
We enjoyed it. Thank you. Yes, sir.
All right, good evening. I'd like to also shout out congratulations to my Teacher of the Year and ABC Award. As Ms. Crawford shared, our Teacher of the Year was Sheila Switlick, who is our speech and language pathologist. And our Above and Beyond the Call of Duty was Mrs. Morley, the administrative assistant in the office. So both of those ladies very well honored and deserve that award to be recognized. A little additional information on Spring Title Family Night. We do one in the fall and one in the spring. We do one in the fall at Parkview and then in the springs at CIS. I'd like to give a shout out to Mrs. Burnett and Mrs. White for the work that they do organizing those events. It's a lot of work for them and they do a wonderful job. This year, this spring, the theme was Puzzlepalooza. So all of the literacy activities had to do with puzzles and puzzle making, which is a critical thinking task for our students. And students were able to create their own puzzle and take that home, so that was fun. And actually, I got one at the parent meeting, but I talked her into taking it home so her mama could see it. But we had on attendance, we had 116 students that participated, pre-K-5, that arrived with 72 different parents. So that was a pretty good showing. Children's Literature Festival, Mrs. Burnett took 13 students from CIS last week. All the weeks run together right now. I think it was last week. It was Monday. It was last Monday. And they had a great time. I just posted some pictures tonight of what that looked like. So I appreciate Mrs. Burnett's work on that. And I know that she works closely with the CBMS librarian as well to make that happen. So appreciative of that. Our last community partnerships for CIS will be April 4th. That one is just to encourage students to do well on their state testing and their district test, show us what they can do. We are less than 4 weeks to MAP testing and my heart rate gets a little high when I say that. So we have head down moving forward, as my teachers always do, and super excited about that. I've put those dates out to parents a couple months ago. I did back up. I talked to you guys last month about maybe moving MAP a little bit. I did back it up the beginning from April 7th to April 14th, and then I'm going to do NWEA and start testing the same week, so we'll still end at the same time, but trying to gain as much instruction time as we can heading into that assessment. So it's moving forward. Any questions for me?
Congratulations on being a presenter at the
Yeah.
Step Up Consulting Conference.
Thank you.
That'll be
She
great.
called and asked me what I could do. I said, what do you need? So that's kind of how that went. And it
that's
was
great.
on a non-contract day, so it was even better. So I didn't have to worry about being away. Thank you.
Mrs. Rucker, just if you would communicate to your students a big thank you from the board. We appreciate the cards, words of encouragement, and it was really nice.
Yes.
So thank
Yes,
you.
very
Yes.
nice.
They enjoy doing things like that, so I will let them know.
They have a sense of humor too.
I read them all before I brought them. Let's be clear about that. Like I knew I was getting laid down first, but yes, they do. They're fun. Kids are fun.
It's very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Stick.
All right. Normally, I don't have much to say, but I got a lot of stuff this time. So First off, just want to say thank you for School Board Appreciation Month. Difficult time to be an elected official, and the fact that you have the courage to serve others in this capacity, or anybody that runs for office, that's special, especially in this day and age. So appreciate you guys and anybody that does that. So thanks again for your sacrifice and dedication. It's something that should be commended. So we had some really positive stuff going on this month. We had National History Day that took place on the 7th of March. We had 9 attendees, and 3 of those 9 actually qualified for the state National History Day conference. So Benjamin Clemens and Sophia Clemens are going in an event, Alexander Vineyard's going in an event, Harrison Lowenstein's going in an event. So really excited about that. Being a social studies teacher, that's something that I still identify as a social studies teacher more than anything. So to me, that's special, and I really appreciate that. Some of those same kids are actually on our middle school academic team. This year we had 12 members. We had enough for 2 squads, an A team and a B team. One of their major highlights this year was taking second place at the St. Joe tournament, which has been pretty elusive to make it into that final for them the last few years. So that was a big thing for them. If you've not been to a lot of middle school academic bowl meets, those questions are no joke. You definitely need to know your stuff. So our kids do a really good job, and it's fun to see them excel on that level. Also want to mention thank you to our representative for Teacher of the Year, Andy Brown. She does a fantastic job, and this is her last year. So sad to see her go, but going out on a high note. And then our ABC person, Rachel Garlick, who is absolutely amazing. Just can't say enough about her as well. I wanted to make sure that I mentioned both of them. They mentioned the Children's Literature Festival. I think this year we had 27 middle school students attend this year, and they were there. I got to school, I think it was 5:30 that morning, and by 5:45, I think I had some kids standing outside ready, waiting to go. So that woke me up pretty early, got me going anyway in the morning, hearing all those voices and kids excited to go on a trip. So that was really neat. They do a great job setting that event up for our kids. Math testing was mentioned. So one of the things we've been meeting with our ELA and math department the last 2 weeks actually, and we've talked about our really hitting the most heavy standards that are focused on the test. We've gone through some of those things and focused on that. So that's been something, trying to make sure that we go back and hit those reviews with less than a month to go. Let's see, what else do I got here? Oh, something that was really exciting for us, March 11th and March 13th, we had Palmyra Middle School came and observed on 2 different days. They brought a contingency of 6 one day and I think 5 the other to come see how we did our behavior intervention stuff. They really wanted to see how we organize and manage and use our program. So they met with Mr. Fisher and I, and we did about 30 minutes with them. Then we took them on they did a tour of the building. They visited various classrooms and saw how we implemented this. Then they came back. They met with people in the special ed department, and then they also met with a panel of teachers, and just some really great questions and back and forth went. I really thought it was a great day. We got tons of compliments about our facilities, about our teachers, just about how we do things in our building. That was a highlight for me, and 28 years of education was able to do that. That was really fun and exciting. So it was just neat that someone not in our district that knows the work we do and familiar with it has heard from our teachers and heard from other people about what we do. They heard through the grapevine and asked to come visit us, so that was awesome. That was neat. Something that I did 10 years ago. I came here and went and observed your math department, so it just was kind of a full circle moment for me. And finally, middle school track is underway. We got 57 people competing this year, 27 boys, 30 girls, so the building clears out pretty fast after school right now. Once that gets going, it's our last athletic season for middle school. That's always a joyous moment for a middle school principal. So all those things went on this month. It's exciting, and we're ramping up for the end, already getting stuff going and planning for next year and doing some of those things. So.
Mr. Stickle, a
Yep.
quick question, and
Yep.
if I'm out of my lane,
Yep.
please let me know.
Sure.
But I noticed on the History Day, they are preparing to take their presentations to MU in April.
Yeah.
And I just wondered if maybe they would be willing to come and just give a short little about their presentations?
So, yeah, I mean, we could set something like that up. I can't remember, yeah, what's it, April 26th? So I'll talk to Ms. Holmes and see. I know they're making some adjustments, taking the feedback that they have, so
Okay.
I'll talk to Ms. Holmes.
It might give them an opportunity to show their wares, and thank you, and congratulations to all the kids.
Thank you. Yeah, they did a great job. Anything else? All right, guys, have a good one. Take care.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good evening. How are you guys doing? Good. So I want to give a shout out to our Teacher of the Year. I know it's kind of been the theme tonight. Condessa Williams was our Teacher of the Year at the high school. And then Ashley Cruikshank was our Above and Beyond the Calling winner. So if you see either of those two, please congratulate them. They're very, 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 very deserving of both Condessa and Ashley of those honors. So super happy for them. A couple things. Mrs. Simpson, she's our DECA advisor, and she took roughly 8 kids, I believe, to the district DECA contest. And the following students qualified for the state DECA in Kansas City at the Career Development Conference. Braden Hamilton and Jake Feigert took first in their sales project. Addie McVicker and Avery Stice, they took first in their community giving project. Jaylee Cruikshank took second in her financial literacy project. Cheney Teal and Zyra Fife, first place buying and merchandising operations research project. Isabella Wright, first place hospitality and tourism operations research project. So represented Cameron very well, and looking forward to them competing later on in Kansas City at the state meet. Speaking of state wrestling, we had 2 medalists. Will Erickson took 4th at 113 pounds, and Dylan Pratt was a state champion at 120. So if you know either one of those 2 gentlemen and you see them, please congratulate them. Had a really good state tournament, and super proud of them. Lastly, we had our Fine Arts Festival at Chillicothe. That was March 1st. Mrs. Babolka wanted me to share that we submitted 20 pieces to the Fine Arts Festival in Chillicothe on March 1st. Mrs. Babolka traveled with 5 students as well to participate in a day of workshops and fellowship with 7 different schools within our conference. There were 125 artworks submitted. Cameron earned 11 ribbons and tied Chillicothe for the People's Choice Award. The following students earned Artistic Excellence, which is the highest ribbon you could earn at this conference meet. Rebecca Cook, Ben Campbell, Brennan Stevie, Peyton Fayville, and Erison Enlow. And then Ellie Krenz earned the People's Choice Award, which was voted upon by the visitors of the show. So Cameron was the most awarded school at the MEC Fine Arts Festival, so congratulations on them and their awards there and representing our school in a positive way. So super proud of them.
Mr. Urban?
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys are all over this. Our juniors are on the struggle bus, aren't they?
They are.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah.
Dr. Langton's door has been a revolving door.
Yeah.
No.
However, the freshmen are doing
Yeah.
Everybody else
Freshmen
is
are
sitting really
rocking
well.
it.
The freshmen are rocking it, but yes.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, no, I'm sure that those are things that,
Yeah, he is weekly meeting with within that class. It seems to be a revolving door with the juniors. So he is having those meetings with kids and then getting all the parents. So.
And that's not new to this year.
I've
mentioned
last month or the month before. Even when I was at CIS, you could see they trend in with low attendance.
okay.
So, not making any excuses. We address it, but it is a pattern with them. So. And then this weekend, if you're not aware, it's Cabaret. So come join us Friday at 7 or Saturday at 7. So.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Good evening. So to follow up all of that, I just wanted to let everyone know that we were able to join the Success Ready Student Network, and it started with about 20 districts and now is over 114 and growing. And the prime reason for that network is to really look at that competency-based mindset instead of I got there because I got a good grade. It's more about I earned the skills I needed to get to the real world learning that I have to accomplish. So The three guiding philosophies are that students at all levels need to be empowered to know where they're at in their learning, which is a lot of our clarity work that we've done. Teachers need to know where that is as well, and professional learning is foundational to that. And then also our assessment approaches are really rooted in information that is real-time instead of the one-time assessment. So through this Success Ready network, it actually came out of the commissioner had tasked a Success Ready focus group at the state level, I believe about 4 or 5 years ago. And through that, they really looked at our assessment at the state level and determined that the one-time assessment doesn't really truly entail exactly what all of our students can do on a yearly basis, to the point where we're actually giving more assessments than the state is looking at. We look at our interim assessments as their actual learning for, or as an assessment for instruction. So adopting some of those practices that we currently do is exactly what about 20 to 30 of those innovation waiver schools are doing. We are not a part of that, but what we're doing is joining that network so that way we can begin that learning, because in a few years, we may be looking at a completely assessment design that does not include the one-time drop-dead test. In fact, it's counterintuitive, because we want to know what students start with growth in the middle of the year, where they're at, and see where they go from there. What competencies they have at that point, where we need to go, and then at the very end of the year to see that growth to plan for the continuation. It's not a stop and start, it's a ladder throughout the grade levels. We continue to have grade levels, but we have those standards that we meet at each grade level. So that's really that work, and to kick off that work, we've already started doing some of that clarity work I've shared with the principals. And we really revamped a few Thursdays ago to look at professional learning communities. We used to be, prior to the pandemic, we were high, you might remember, high practice professional learning community districts. So what we're doing is we're bringing those practices back into play, and then also including some of this competency-based mindset. We actually have 2 teachers that are joining the personalized competency-based Missouri teacher cadre program in each region. There are about 20 teachers that were chosen. Most districts got 0 or 1, we got 2. I really highly encouraged that early learning for our teachers. And we have 2, Kimber Zubek at 7th grade ELA and Cassie Pope, the math and science teacher at CIS. So that's going to be phenomenal learning for them and to bring back to essentially help us along in that journey. As you've heard, a lot of, we have testing coming up, and so we've been doing a lot of training in that to help our students navigate the test in and of itself. There's a lot of tricks and tools that hinder them doing their best. I can share a personal story from one of my own children who I said, "How was that test?" And he said, "Well, I realized halfway through that I needed to click to a different page each time, and instead he wasn't clicking, he was just reading the one page and answering all the questions for it. Instead of reading 7 passages, he read 1 page of it." So just there's a lot to that test. There's a lot of changes, and so we really have our students practice the parts to the assessment that are on the computer, because it's computerized assessment. And also just continual professional development. We were able to send a few teachers to the Conference of the Younger Years, which was really awesome. Be ready to be hearing from now to the end of the year, and then in the fall, about our CSIP round 2. So we are going to be looking at the progress we've made, and then tweaking some of those areas in our action steps, and possibly modifying some of our goals, but just to continue to see where we're headed. We've met a few of our goals, and we'll continue to make progress, but that review will go through next year. So what questions can I help with today?
Any questions for Dr. I appreciate all the information that you provided. I'm excited that we're part of that competency.
Yes.
You and I have talked about that quite
Yes.
a bit, trying to get away from this one snap-shot event to getting these kids.
And I will say, it is going to be important because it is on a competency base instead of, we have the 4 categories, And Dr. Robinson and I have been in education enough that basic doesn't mean you're below grade level. Basic is actually on grade level, and we have a few that slip below and a slip up, but that's actually some of the legislation that's being looked at this year is adding a specific category of on grade level, taking basic and below basic and separating that into below grade level, which is what is a misconception, and then the proficient and advanced being above and having that on grade level. So I hope that passes because it's very confusing.
And the goal probably is to try to get a bell curve, I assume, or try, I mean, you're wanting those kids on grade level. I mean, you'd love to have them all at the advanced, but when we have kids that have IQs of 127 and we have kids that have IQs of 80, you're trying to get into that grade level.
And as Mrs. Crawford has shared, we don't exempt students. We only have allowable amount. And we have nonverbal students taking on grade level assessments, and so that's also considered in that, and just helping them with accommodations, but they still take the on grade level assessments. So.
I am glad they're looking at adding that middle piece there to clarify.
Yeah,
sure. That. Any other comments or questions? Thank you. Good reporting. All right, moving on to patron agenda items. We're at that point where we have had district constituents who have submitted a resident agenda item form, C-140, and we had anybody that requested it, received it. We had 2 people return it, completed it on time. And so I want to invite them up to the podium to speak. This is the time where the board listens to you. It's the practice of the board to listen to understand. We don't necessarily reply because we're trying to gather the information to make sure that we're making solid decisions. So we may ask clarifying questions for you, but otherwise our focus is really just to hear and listen to you so that we can digest the information and see if we need to do anything. So first, this evening, as I've stated in the past, I asked that the constituents to stay on topic because we've noticed that as part of the Sunshine Law. So stay on topic and focus on the resolution that you're requesting about that topic. And I will invite Mr. Landi up first to introduce yourself for the record and to address the board. We'll begin with 5 minutes after you've introduced yourself.
Yeah, I'm ready. Okay. Dan Landi, I live in rural Caldwell County. I'm a resident of the district. I'd like to start with a prayer. Please, we need them. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil, amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Okay, thanks. It's good to be here. My 3 months just flies by. And we're here to talk about books tonight. Why? Because it's our quarterly book meeting. Why is it a quarterly book meeting? Because that's the rules that you all have imposed on us to restrict our speech. So, let's begin with the responsibility of the school board. And according to the website, the district's own website, the school board is responsible for providing effective oversight of the district. That's your language. Providing effective oversight of the district. It can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. I don't know what it means to you. I would like to ask you, but I don't think you would tell me, at least not here, probably not ever, because I've got a list of emails that I'm still waiting on answers from each of you from way back about all kinds of stuff. So I understand this is a one-sided event tonight, a one-sided conversation. You're here to listen. I'm here to voice my grievances. I would dearly love some answers, and I know you're not going to give them. And I know that's not what your job is, at least your self-proclaimed job. We've been battling these books for how long, right? Since I haven't gotten any straight answers in the past, I'm going to keep asking those questions because folks at home need to hear this. People that aren't here in this room, people that may have just tuned in, moved to Cameron, or just the light bulb finally came on and they realize there are problems here, maybe they need to hear some of these questions. So here goes. Let me back up for just a minute, because I got a little out of my order here. Let's talk about community engagement and as it relates to the books, because this is the same. I'm really talking about the same thing. The difference, the way I understand it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because I want everybody to understand, and I want to understand too. You've got school board meetings and community engagement meetings, right? I mean, community engagement meetings are designed, from what I understand, for engagement between the board and the administration and the public. Public asks questions, you provide answers, you explain things that we don't understand in a public forum, right? Where everyone's welcome, free of cost, right? That's the way I understand the community engagement meetings. School board is different in the fact that I gripe to you and you sit there and listen, okay? The way I also understand it, there's Missouri State Law 162.058 governs the school community engagement policy, right? It basically says that you have to have a policy.
I don't want to interrupt, but your topic was on books.
Books, right.
Yes, please.
Well, that's what we're talking about. We have questions, the public has questions about these books, and you won't answer them. How are we supposed to get answers? You won't answer them at a school board meeting. Will you answer them at a community engagement meeting? That's my question. That's why I'm going there, because you don't answer these questions. I've asked each of you individually, via email, via in person. I've asked you publicly at meetings. You won't answer the question. Okay, here are some of the questions. Now we're getting into the meat and potatoes. Who is responsible for allowing these books into the school? Is someone trying to push their personal agenda on the students? Whoever's allowing these books in obviously has an agenda. Number 3, why isn't there a policy to keep more of these books out of the school? And folks, when we're talking about books, for the people that are listening at home, we're talking about obscene, adult type content in these books. Some are sexual, some are violent, a lot of them have cuss words. You've heard it before, we've been up here talking about it before. Number 4, why won't you allow parents into the libraries to inspect the books that the kids have access to? Number 5, why are the parents are the only ones searching for these books? In other words, we're doing all your work. Number 6, why does the district want the students to learn from these books? What do you expect the kids to learn by reading this garbage? Number 7, do any of you personally approve of these books? I'd like to know. I've got more questions. I'm about out of time. Thanks for listening, but sadly that's all you're going to do is listen.
Well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody have any clarifying questions for Mr. Landi?
I would be glad to answer your questions.
Seeing none, we'll invite Ms. Allen up to the podium. Ms. Allen, if you'll just introduce yourself for the record. Your time as you introduce yourself.
My name is Paula Allen. I'm a Canadian resident and taxpayer. The time I really started to love reading was probably kindergarten, and I just loved the Sam I Am books. I love books because it's like an adventure, an escape, another opportunity, an experience. Elementary school, that's when COVID started, made it so we had school online for a while. Through online school, I started reading a bit more, books that were descriptive in nature. Middle school, that's when it really got worse. It was more open, more readily accessible, and it was normalized. I hadn't had a phone until this year. The stuff that I accessed online was a lot more roses and happy, like romance books, maybe kissing, but it wasn't descriptive about explicit sex. The books that I had found and had been recommended were definitely that, explicit sex. When I started reading books like that, I started reading more because it was more open in middle school. It piqued my interest and I started to read more like that, probably because I was just beginning to figure out human nature. My hormones were beginning to change, I started my period, and I was really good at learning. Like, I'm a good learner. I love to learn. I found everything I could on it and I got heavily into that stuff. It became an addiction. I had to read something like that or I didn't get that fix of dopamine, whatever you want to call it. It progressively got worse because I found out what it was and what they do. Basically, I felt like I needed that connection with someone. So So I went online and I chatted pretty much with pedophiles and a whole bunch of other people just trying to get that connection. I put myself and my family at risk. I acted like the character in the book, like life was the book for me. In my mental view, I was struggling so badly. I just didn't completely understand it. It was an escape, the only thing that would make me happy. I was a super extroverted kid, but the more I read this, the more I thought, I don't need friends, I just need this connection. So I started distancing myself, not only from my friends, I grew to hate myself, others, my mother, my sister, I hated everyone. As I continued to get worse, I started lying more and hiding things. I had to go to juvie a few times because of my bad relationship with my mother. It definitely stemmed from normal romance because I loved that love connection that was stated in books, which can really be beautiful. But then it went something more explicit, and the explicit content definitely brought me to that point. This necklace, it's a safety pin. It's a chain. It's a suicide prevention necklace, and it's a promise to stay alive. It's a safety pin. People literally make brain neurons that connect to the thought. As a kid, if you read that, you can't get it out of your head. You can't just close the book and forget about it. It ingrains itself in your brain. It will be there forever. You can't get the innocence back, and you will not be able to unsee those words. So when people say you just can close the book if you don't like what you're reading, I heavily disagree. You're given that book in the first place. You're going to read it. You have that in your head. If it's in schools, it's affecting people that it's not helping. And they're being suggested. It's being normalized by teachers, librarians, peers. So it just recirculates into teenagers and it's given over and over. They can't see what's right or wrong. It's like putting a blindfold on someone and expecting them to run. Fourth Wing, that was heavily influenced by peer pressure because it was a very popular book. Everyone read it, and it was a popularity contest to see who knew what was in the book. A friend of mine recommended it, specifically had those pages marked. The point isn't about romance or cute love story anymore. It's about getting the reader in that aroused state. That shouldn't be in a children's library. Why let schools have this on the off chance that it'll help someone when actually it's more harmful than helpful? I think that if that teacher had initially recommended that author, I wouldn't have seen it as quite as normal. I don't think the librarian even knew how much of a butterfly effect that would be. I'm sure she was just trying to share a cool story with an awesome reader. I don't think she understood how detrimental that book was in my hands. I wish I could go back. I would take all those stupid books out of my hands. Just let myself be innocent, because it's hard to stay innocent these days. So just let them have it for as long as they possibly can. If you're watching this or you're listening to this, you're used to reading books like this, I advise you set them down for a long time, like 3 months, and then see how differently you act and how differently you think. I have been able to be happier, more genuine, and nicer person. And just know that there's always someone that's going to stick up for you. If it has to be me, let it be me, because I can say what you need to. I can say what people need to, even when they don't understand what they need to, if that makes sense. That was a 15-year-old girl's testimony of what the books with descriptive words. Yes,
just
ma'am.
a clarifying question, is that a student from Cameron?
Oh my gosh.
Would it matter? Do all kids matter to you?
Of course.
Okay.
Don't even ask me that question. I'm insulted that you would ask me that question. I'm part of a governing body for the schools in Cameron. So I'm asking if that student was a student from Cameron. That's a fair question.
No, it is not. But it is a true testimony, and I will send you the video. It is a true testimony. So if it affects one student,
I believe you.
That's 15-year-old young lady.
It's terrible.
If it affects her in this manner, what is it doing to other kids? We have 1,600 kids in our district.
I asked the question if this was a student that we can impact, and clearly it's not. So.
We don't know what the words are doing to our kids.
I understand.
It's obviously impacting some negatively, and kids are kids whether they live here or in a different state.
I don't agree with it, but I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. We're going to move on to items for consideration on the agenda. And so the first item A is the user agency agreement with the Missouri State Highway Patrol. Dr. Robinson.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about this. Actually, Mrs. Walker and I just went through an audit with Highway Patrol last week, I think actually a week ago, just to go over, currently when an employee wants to be employed at the Cameron School District, or probably every district in the state of Missouri, most districts have partnered with Missouri State Highway Patrol. We've been a partner with them since 2014 was when I last signed the agreement. That's why we're looking at signing it. It's been a few years since we've re-signed that agreement, but that agreement allows us to, what we effectively do is send to the library. They do their identicode. That identicode goes in the system. Highway Patrol and FBI then overlook that, and so we get back the records, and we have a chance to look at those records, and then effectively the audit looked at how we handle those records once we get them, who else sees them, what do we do with them afterwards, who can we share them with, just some questions like that, which we passed with flying colors. But I thought it was important for the board to know that, you know, this, when somebody's hired at the school, that this is a whole entire process. Now, we're actually trying to catch up with this a little bit because what they call the MOX system was not really developed, and they started doing some stuff, but the MOX system effectively sends me an alert if we have somebody that's in our system under our Cameron name, sends me something that, you know, it's something that's happened. And so we see those alerts if we have them. Sometimes it might be for somebody getting picked up for suspended license or something like that. But that was in 16, so pretty much anybody that was here after 16 is a part of our mock system. We have to validate and we have to do some things like that. And we're actually going to be working on trying to get anybody that was there before that system put into the system. There's not a ton of people, but for those people that were here, you know, before 16, that we get them as part of the system as well. But I just kind of wanted to go over that a little bit and just share with the board with what all that is and what that process looks like and how we go through it and how we kind of, it's our first screen of people that want to be an employee here at Cameron. So.
And then that process is audited as well. That's what you would.
That's what we went through last Tuesday. Was we had an hour and a half, 2-hour audit. A gentleman comes up from the Highway Patrol. They look at where we keep our records, how we keep our records, who sees them, who has access. Some of that's from the FBI side because what they consider a record is a little bit different. And so, in fact, I think we were doing our new agreement now, although I think he said, correct me if I'm wrong, this summer the Missouri State Highway Patrol and FBI are redoing their agreement this summer. So he didn't think there'll be major changes, but he said there's always a few changes. But usually it's on their end, not with this Highway Patrol in the schools. So.
Any questions from the board? I'm assuming you're wanting a motion for us to.
Yeah, go ahead and a motion to approve that, and then we'll get that signed and sent back. So.
Perfect. I have a motion to approve the user agency agreement with the Missouri State Highway.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Ann Goodwin Clark, second by Mr. Grenier. Any other discussion? I'm glad that we do that from oversight there. So, well, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed, same sign. Seeing none, motion passes unanimously.
And we do not have any health insurance. Right now we just have one bid, and I'm waiting for another one that I waited till the last minute. I don't have it. They think they'll have it later this week. So I feel like we need to make sure that we've got more bids than one if we can get it. So.
Gotcha. So no action on health insurance tonight. We'll just table that until the next meeting. Very well. Well, that brings us to board member comments. Any board members have any comments this evening?
Just that we have an election coming up April 8th, and I want to encourage everyone to go out and vote. It's your right and your duty as a citizen, so take advantage of that.
Any other comments? I want to remind the community that the board has made a statement, I believe, September of 23. We updated policy December of 23. We made another statement February 24. We made another public statement September 24 about the book concern. And so as that comes up, I think I haven't had any board members ask to make any motions to change the policy. We updated that policy, really tightened that policy back in December of 23. To the community, I want you to know that we have updated the DESB system. If you have a student in the district, you can log on and see your child's Destiny record and the books that they have access to. That Destiny system also notes the restricted books that we have been, the staff followed the directive of the board, and they restricted between 30 and 40 books, and that's noted on the Destiny system. So just to be transparent with the community, there's a lot of information for families out there about this. The restriction access form is also on the website. Inside that form, you have access to a whole list of books. You also have access to that policy. Inside that policy, we've even included wording out of the state statute. So we really tightened that policy back in December of '23. And so when this subject comes up every 3 months, I just want to remind the community of what the board has done. And that's why we listen to our constituents and have taken into consideration and have empowered, the way we approached it, we empowered parents to control the reading of their children. And so parents can give access, or they can restrict, or they can further restrict with that.
Ms. Ice, if I could piggyback onto that. I took one book just recently, just doing The Bluest Eye of Toni Morrison, which is a highly controversial book, and it has been, I think I found that it's been challenged back since 2005. I found 15 instances of it being challenged. In each of those instances, save for 2, the books remained in the libraries. They weren't restricted. The parents weren't given a say. They remained in the libraries. I like to think that while we're accused of never listening and never taking this seriously, I assure you that we have, and that by giving parents the say, I think we have done, certainly we've done more than 15 other school boards have done. I'm not saying that the bar is cleared completely, nobody's perfect, but to suggest that we've ignored this is just wrong. It's just wrong. That's all.
I just always want to remind the community that there's resources out there for you on the school's website for you to do what you think is best for your family, and that's the approach that this board took in that. So if you have any questions, you can always reach out to your child's administrator, and they would be happy to answer those questions or guide you to the documents that you need to assist your families. Any other board member comments?
I've got one positive community side of it. We had some burnout baseball lights at the baseball field.
Yeah.
Baseball season coming up, so we reached out to City Cameron and Scobie Powerline and kind of got some good community service out of them. I think we're gonna get some lights.
Yeah, we are.
So that's good. I mean, that's good. You know, that's the community working together.
We replaced 16 lights and only 15, or only one turned on. And we realized that we had a bunch of burnt ballast and some other things like that, but it was really cool to see everybody.
Yeah.
We had a lot of community help on that, so that was very nice.
I think that's good for the community.
We don't have a lift quite that high, so.
Also just wanted to say one last thing. I want to thank my fellow board members. This is School Board Appreciation Month, and just appreciate all the dedication and time and effort and studying and things that you do to better the students' lives here in our community, and I just want to say thanks.
Probably double your raises.
Yeah, and double our raises, yeah. 0 times 0 times 2, anything times 0 is, kind of 0, so. But just,
thank you for all you do.
Anything else?
We do need to go into closed.
Yep. So I need a motion.
Motion to go back to closed session. Section 610.0.
Motion by Ms. Peck to go back into closed section.
Second.
Second by Mr. Grenier.
2-1 subsection 3.
Yes.
Personnel.
Yep.
Personnel.
All right.
Roll call vote.
Roll call, by roll call.
Yes.
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 Very good. With that, I adjourn the open portion of the meeting, and we'll go back into closed.
Mrs. Clark, I did not mean any disrespect towards you. I was taken aback at your question. Just in this moment alone. I saw several references of whether it's attendance or map testing, the things that have
Yes,
happened.
you did.
so that
Just
it's not
spoke to me.
fair.
Did not mention. Bad timing.
So I, right, so well, even in the people that presented the different statistics, so I can't imagine that Cameron would be exempt from potential harm from descriptive words. So I wasn't trying to be disrespectful to you. I was just taken aback, so I apologize.
Okay, my point in asking the question was,
Full of stress, of course.
it was brought up to us at another meeting that there had been something, incidents. And I just wanted to make sure that this wasn't a student of ours, and that's why I asked the question.
Right.
We're gonna go on into closed session.
I understand that, but it makes me think about Mrs. Wilcox, Cassidy Wilcox 2 years ago. She really.
I know Cassidy well, she was in my band.
It was an eye-opener when she shared what happened in the halls at CHS, so.
Mrs. Clark, would you please look at Destiny for that book, The Bluest Eye? And read the description of the Bluest Eye that's available to the parents that we have to use to decide if our kids want to read the book. And does that description match the content in that book? A little girl that dreams about having blue eyes.
Mr. Gilbert, we're gonna go back into closed, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
You read it though?
I have read it.
Okay.
Mrs. Ice, when can we have a community?
We allow you to engage with us every month if you feel it.
No, I mean like a special meeting, but it's
like this.
I don't know when we'll.
But it's a two-way conversation.
I can tell you, you can just watch for whenever we announce that we're gonna do something. We have open houses, we have different things that we do throughout so our communication director will push out when we do open houses and other events.
What's the Title I?
That would have been community engagement.
Okay, so if we ask a question about whatever in an open house, you think that would be an appropriate venue for?
I don't know what your questions are, but
Well, yeah, you do. I just read them.
well, you know, I think we've answered your question about the book, the way the board has decided to answer that question, as we discussed back in December of '23 by tightening policy.
So conversation's over about the book, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I saw that.
Well, if the board wants to bring it back up in the form of a motion and a discussion to tighten policy, they can, they haven't yet.
And that's the problem. We hope to rectify that. Excuse me.
We need you.